Maximum Health with your host, Dr. Ken Gray. With over 20 years in healthcare, Dr. Gray is a doctor of Oriental medicine and holistic physician fusing Eastern and Western healing. Dr. Gray is on staff at Jupiter Medical Center and in private practice with an office in Jupiter, Florida, where he resides. Dr. Gray enjoys being a physician as well as being an educator. His unique approach to holistic healing has taken him abroad to lecture in Baden-Baden, Germany, and treat sports professionals in Hawaii and Biarritz, France. He is co-author of several books on food therapy and the founder of the annual Star Summit Talks at the Norton Museum of Art in Palm Beach, Florida. Now it's time for Maximum Health with Dr. Ken Gray.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Maximum Health Radio Quality Living with yours truly, Dr. Ken Gray. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. And remember that this is a podcast as well. So if you have to step away and you miss any portion of it, you just check any of your platforms and we're there, Maximum Health Radio. And we have Tisa Oldham with us today, and it's a celebration. We are honoring her. We are honoring her for so many things, but mainly today. She is the first female expedition leader for National Geographic.
Well, thank you.
So I've known her for some years. I've known when this was a dream of hers to become this person that would travel the world and help to show and educate people and bridge cultures. And I really see it as a form of healing, and you as a healer. And you've, I've known about your work through church, and we've met through Bible studies, and I mean, just everything about you is just full of light and love and greatness. And now that you get to share yourself and this presence with the world, it's been, it's really something I wanted to celebrate. And I thought one of the ways I could do it was to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Yes. So thank you that you can tell your story and share some of your experiences, because now you have a few trips under your belt.
Yes.
Quite a few, which has led to this promotion, right? This wonderful thing.
Right.
So let's go back to the dream before it became reality.
Okay.
What drew you to the dream, and how did that happen?
So I personally took a trip with National Geographic, and first let me say that they have a plethora of opportunities available for travel. The only one that I work in is the private jet trips. Okay. And what had happened was I took a trip myself as a guest back in 2018, and it was life-changing. And I was on the third night of the trip and lying in bed at 2 a.m. and thinking, oh my goodness, there's nothing like this, nothing like this. And I was so overcome by the experience, and I was only the third day into a 24-day trip. And I said to myself, don't even think about it, immerse yourself in the trip, and when you get home, you can think about what this means. And I got home, and the very next day, I called them and said, I need to come work for you, because there was nothing like traveling the world and experiencing 13 countries in 24 days, which you can't do unless you're going to fly there.
Right.
And to do it the way National Geographic does it, which is to immerse you into an experience that educates, that exposes, that enlightens, that illuminates, that bridges the gap in your understanding of other people and cultures and worlds and resources and natures. So I had to become a part of it. And then it took me 13 months to convince them. But they finally did. So.
And this was through, obviously, shut down with COVID. This was through a lot of different upheavals that threw wrenches and dismay and disappointments.
That's right. Yeah, I finally did get hired by them and went on a trip, and we were halfway through the first trip and COVID hit. Yeah. And it was not without stress to have 80 people in India and trying to get home under the border closing and all that. But we did. And then we were grounded for 2 years thanks to COVID. So I got the dream, and then I lost the dream in a month. But now we're back flying and experiencing, and every trip has been sold out, and it's been tremendous. And we hit 7 continents, so it's a tremendous opportunity.
You know, I look back as a kid, right, receiving National Geographic booklets. There were more than magazines. You think of a magazine, you think of a thin, cover and certain type of thing. These were books, many books of beautiful pictures, lots of information. And so from day one, National Geographic took it upon themselves to bring the world closer.
That's right.
Under the idea that if we understood each other better, we'd probably harm each other less. I felt, it enlightened me, it enriched me, and I was a child growing up in Flushing, Queens, 70s, early 80s, and my world was small compared to that world.
That's right. National Geographic does a beautiful job between all of its medias to bring us together. We talk about the world being flatter and how amazing it is thanks to the internet and to video and to audio and to all these mechanisms for us to learn about other cultures and other people, but this takes it to another level. If someone is fortunate enough to be able to take advantage of one of the travel opportunities with them, they've taken it a step further to say, we're not just going to show you in print or video, we're going to take you there.
Right.
To some of the most exotic, far-reaching places of
Remote.
The world, and not just take you, but we're going to have scientists and researchers and biologists and archaeologists that go with us on these trips.
Right.
And then in each country, there's the local people that are doing amazing things that are there to educate you.
Yeah.
And so you go on these trips not just for the luxurious travel of it and the experience of staying in the finest places all over the world, but you go because every step of the way you're being enlightened.
The immersive nature of it is what intrigues me. However, it takes a particular kind of person to want to be immersed. And we're not just talking about having the financial wherewithal. We're talking about having the mental, spiritual, emotional wherewithal, right?
That's right.
To move outside of your comfort zone and to accept how small you are and be bigger than that, and then go and, be, right?
Yeah.
There's no way, number one, that I think from what you're describing, that one person could ever afford that, really. So there's sponsors, there's all sorts of things that are involved with National Geographic helping to provide this to these individuals. However, it's still not cheap.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So describe to me the person, the people that you have had the pleasure of being a guide to.
So we take between 45 and 80 people on the jet based on where we're going. Okay. So if we're doing a trip that centers on just Africa, because of the nature of where we're going and the difficulty of getting to some of these places, the group tends to be smaller because we're often getting off of the big 757 and getting onto smaller prop planes that take us into these locations. Same with Australia and New Zealand, where I'm getting ready to go to in a week. We will be taking 45 people on this 25-day trip. But we take 80 people to 13 countries across 6 continents around the world. We literally go around the world.
Wow.
And so it tends to be people that not only have the financial means to do it, but also people that have the time.
Right.
Not everyone
Time
can step away from their lives, their obligations, their families, their responsibilities. Right. So it tends to be people that are a little bit older,
right,
that have that opportunity in their lives. But it's every kind of person imaginable from all over the world. So primarily our guests are are from the United States, but we also have a really nice mix of guests that come from other countries to participate in these trips, and we enjoy not only meeting the people that we meet in these countries, because we have between 15 and 30 people in every country that are there to do nothing but see to it that our experience is incredible.
Right.
And they're local people, and they know the ins and outs and everything that we need to see in the short amount of time that we're there. So then we also have people that bring their families, their children. We have quite a few people that are in their 70s and late 70s that this is the trip of a lifetime that they've looked forward to having. And then we have what's called lifetime explorers, that are people that do multiple trips because they have a passion.
Right.
And they're eager to experience that passion. For example, if they have an interest in wildlife, they may want to see all the wildlife of the world, so they'll go on multiple trips for that purpose. And we're constantly modifying our itineraries based on the feedback that we get from guests who say, it'd be really nice if. And so we put together, for example, we did our first ever trip with the Wall Street Journal, because we recognized there was some synergy between the readers of the Wall Street Journal and National Geographic.
Makes sense.
And so we had a plane full of 80 Wall Street Journal subscribers, and the entire nature of the trip was different. It was about finance and innovation, and it was very different than what we normally do. But we recognized the synergy, so we did it, and it was a huge success.
So, there's always the elephant in the room that I like to look at or address and bring that up before moving forward with all the great, wonderful things that we need to discuss. When a patient comes to me and they say, I've heard great things about you. The next thing that comes, however, I'm very nervous. I'm very fearful. I don't like needles. So I say, okay, let's get over that fear. And I, take a swab and I do a little acupuncture needle, and they go, oh, that's it? So for me, thinking about travel, especially in these times, there is, wonder of, okay, what about health, wellness, and the COVID and this and that. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. So for those people that are a little bit more fearful, which I can respect. I'm not one of those people. We've been traveling through everything, and we just love, we've taken our kids, and we've been cautious. We've taken precautions. But how does that look when you have these groups and small planes, and how have you dealt with that change of landscape when it comes to travel? And for people out there that might be wondering, well, how do they deal with this? How do we overcome this fear before getting into all the beauty, right?
Right. So first of all, we have a physician that travels with us.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
The entire trip.
Yeah.
And this person has everything they need at their disposal to handle any circumstance that we come across. We also know in every country what we would do in the event of a medical emergency. Yeah. And those resources in every country, I mean, we know it before we ever even get there.
Right.
What is the path? Where would we go? How would we facilitate?
Because there's a number of things that can happen, right?
That's right. Yeah. And people come to these trips with medical history. And then there's the emotional, the fear, the worry about COVID. COVID was difficult. I won't deny that.
Yeah.
But as we went into each country, we knew exactly what the protocols were. We knew how we were going to facilitate it. And our jets, we have two, are our jets. So they are cleaned by us and maintained by us. And they have an incredible system that is on the level of hospitals.
Yeah.
So they have a filtration system and a process. And then in every country, they're cleaned again and fumigated again.
Extra level of TLC for...
That's right. And so, yes, we've had people contract COVID while we were in a country. And we purposely staffed up so that if the guests needed to stay behind and be taken care of, we stayed with them.
Right.
So we never left them in a country on their own to facilitate or figure out how they were going to be cared for.
And that was more for the rules of the country at the time, which I think have lessened at this point.
In fact, they're essentially gone.
Okay.
And that's fascinating because I was on the first trip that happened after National Geographic decided to start traveling again. I was on the last one when COVID hit. I was on the first one when it started again. And that was difficult to hit 12 countries and have every country have a different protocol. And a lot of guests that were nervous, and we were masking and doing all the things that you do. Well, now that was in September, and now here we are in April, and none of that exists anywhere.
Right.
Also understand a lot of the places that we go are outdoors.
Right.
And so, sure, we do some things that are indoors, but they're usually private. We're not in crowds of thousands of people. They're very intimate settings. Yeah. So as long as we maintain a safe environment with our 45 to 80 guests, we can tend to manage it fairly well.
Right.
And so we've been very, very fortunate that we've had very few guests have significant medical emergencies thanks to COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't ask for more than that. Now, let's talk about some of the spectacular views and accommodations and experiences and food. I'm a big foodie.
Oh, yes, you are.
So, but we'll partition this out a little bit. It's a lot. First, I know that one of your recent trips, we were talking about staying at what is considered to be the most beautiful hotel resort in the world. Tell us what that is.
So I just returned from a trip to Marrakesh, and it's called the La Mamounia, and it was rated the #1 resort in the world. And if you go there, you can understand why. It's not just because it was a former palace, but also because the level of service and the excellence and the decor and the essence of the place, you just can't. I can't even put words around it. Yeah. It's that magnificent, and the food is a huge part of that as well, with world-renowned chefs there. And
I think you told me you had tagine every day or something.
Yeah, well,
explain to our listeners what tagine is.
Well, one of the things I like about travel is getting to experience the food of the place that you're in.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't enjoy food like you and I do, that can be challenging. But if you do and you're open to it and you just go somewhere like a Marrakesh where you say, what is it that everyone eats here? And you allow them to give you that experience, it's just amazing. I'm not going to tell you I've loved everything, but I certainly did in Marrakesh. So these wonderful savory dishes of vegetables and couscous that are blended together with these incredible meats and chicken and whatever, the spices and the freshness of it. It's just tremendous.
Healing to the soul.
It is. It is. And aromatic. It's a full sensory experience. Yeah.
So, and it's done in a clay pot that looks like it
over
like
an
a
open
tower
fire
or something, so that all the heat kind of blends everything. It moves in within this clay pot in a way that just cooks evenly and thoroughly and beautifully.
That's right.
And they use things like, I forget what kind of cardamom pod and all of these, like you said, very aromatic herbs.
And it's
and
so
healing
simple.
Herbs. They're healing. Yeah.
The simplicity of it is amazing, that they just throw all these ingredients in this pot and set it on a flame and walk away, and you come back and it's like, oh my goodness.
It seems like they throw it, but I know there's a pattern. There's a pattern and there's a technique and there's a sequence, but they've been doing it for so long. And and they do what we in the West do not do enough of, which is hand down these beautiful dishes from generation to generation.
That's right.
So there's a portion of my children which cook and know the dishes that have come down from our heritage, which is more West Indian. And I love that. I love that they ask for it, but I love more importantly that they've learned it. And I think that we need to think more about that and do those things, even if it's one dish that your great-grandmother used to do, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's where the love comes from. So that was La Mamunya and Marrakesh. Now, what about Africa? How was something like that, which being in the middle, did you have where they set up the tents and all this? Or
we do,
okay.
and because, again, this is the high-end luxury
Right.
level of travel for National Geographic, everywhere we go is considered the finest in the world. So, yes, you're staying in the bush in tents.
But they're not
But
tents.
they're,
My wife might refer to as glamping.
they're way above that.
Glamour
Yeah.
camping, but
It's
even better.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you're just riding along in a Jeep, and all of a sudden this incredible oasis of a place is there with luxury in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's magnificent, but also you're lying in a tent that is very safe.
Yeah.
And it's got the flaps on it, so you open them up, you're protected, but your elephants are walking by you, and wild cats and zebras, and everything is just right there, and of course the Maasai are there to protect you and take care of you and escort you around the facility.
And they're the local warrior tribe people?
They
Maasai,
are, right.
And what part of Africa was this? Are you talking?
I've been all over Africa.
Okay. But this one where the Maasai is a particular place?
Well, it's the north east corner,
okay.
yeah, and there's some in the southeast corner as well. But definitely an amazing experience, and for me, Africa is probably my favorite place in the world because of its vast, open, amazing being out in the stars and seeing the animals in their habitat, and the people of Africa they're just amazing. Yeah.
You've been to Asia,
Yes.
Singapore,
Yes.
Thailand,
Right.
all of that.
Right.
And of all of that, what really dazzled you? What would you go back to?
Oh,
Willingly, obviously not for your job.
many. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think if you have an open mind, you can find something anywhere, everywhere you go. And it bridges the gap to compassion. It helps us to be better humans because we appreciate other people who live differently than we do as a result of being there.
There's a saying, I read it somewhere, you want to become a better person, travel.
That's right.
Right? It's because it's healing to, again, immerse yourself, appreciate other cultures, try the food, local food. I think that's something that is underrated. And again, I also feel sorry for people that can't appreciate or have not learned to appreciate food.
That's right.
Because that is the key. That's the code to a lot of cultures. Is their food? It's this code. It's this information. It's carried from generation. Generation can be.
It's also an expression of love.
Yeah.
To the way that they prepare
Yes.
a dish for you.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've sat in people's homes all over the world and had tea.
Yeah.
And the love and care and way that they present a cup of tea can be an experience that words can't even describe.
I love it that National Geographic comes with such respect that it's not just these resorts or publicly accessible places, but there's private accessibility, I should say, with homes.
That's right.
And people.
That's right.
That's beautiful.
It is.
There's not too many institutions or anywhere that can say that they have that.
That's right.
That
You can be
access.
looking in the face of a gorilla, or you can be sitting in a hut with someone in the middle of Vietnam. It's a matter of what you want to do.
And that's a testimony to you who have dreamt this, and now it's your reality.
That's right. I'm a lucky lady.
I hope that, we all at some point go through life and get to experience at least some level of that, because that is, everybody is spending not everybody, a lot of people, too many people are spending their time focusing on the negative of this earth, of this planet, of humanity, when there's so much beauty and so much positivity out there.
That's right.
If you just shift your focus.
That's right.
Yeah.
Open your mind.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And again,
Thank
we
you.
celebrate you, we honor you, and we are grateful for you that you are out there bridging gaps in worlds and enriching people, and while enriching yourself.
That's right. That's right.
That's
I
beautiful.
love what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and thank you for having me.
Yes. This has been Tisa Oldham, first female, more than tour guide. You are, what's your official title?
Expedition leader.
Expedition leader of National Geographic, making history and being part of history. This has been another Maximum Health Quality Living. Yours truly, Dr. Ken Gray. If you've missed any portion of this amazing and wonderful show, it is available via all podcast formats, and this is in part brought to you by Vel Health. VelHealth.com. Download your wellness within reach today. The first holistic health app is ready for you to enjoy. See you next time.